Hey, it's Christopher, and you're listening to Winning, Watching, and Wrecking. And how is everyone today? Hopefully very well. It's recording this podcast, and it's still light outside, so that's always good, right? Spring ahead. Warmer temperatures coming. Time to get running for me. And spend a lot of time outside. That's what we got to do, I think, through all this craziness in the globe today and the global pandemic. Still rearing its ugly head 1 year later. Kind of sick of it, aren't you? I mean, it's depending, I guess, what part of the country you're in or part of the globe you're in. It's a bit more problematic than other places, but kind of tired of it. That's all I can say is that there's not a lot, but with warmer temperatures coming, get out and about and keep your body moving. Stay active, people. You know, it's a lot of people. The message throughout this was stay the fuck home. Well, it's good that you do that. Good on you. It's for everyone's health and safety. But I also think getting out there and being active is the way to go. But enough about that. Let's get started to why we're really here on this glorious evening. It's to talk about Phoenix and the fallout from the Valley of the Sun. Martin Truex Jr., JGR's third best driver. So you can figure out who the rest are. He wins at Phoenix. This is the first win of 2021 for him. Fifth different winner to win in 2021. So those spots for the playoffs or the chase, or I guess it's called the playoffs. I don't think we've called it the chase in a while, but 5 spots brutal. Relinquished right there. We have now 11 up for grabs. Who grabs those 11? Again, a lot of the usual suspects look good in this race. The Harvicks of the world, Denny Hamlin. Penske boys are going to win soon. But two of the Gibbs cars have won already this year. So Joe Gibbs maintaining their stranglehold of the competition, which is they've run roughshod over this series for a number of years. And I think this incarnation of Joe Gibbs racing could be one of the strongest. You've got the 3 veteran drivers, Keselowski. Sorry, I've got Keselowski on my mind here. We'll talk about him later for all the Keselowski loyalists out there. But first we're talking about Joe Gibbs and Christopher Bell. You got the youthful exuberance that he brings to the stable, and then you have KG veterans, Truex, Denny Hamlin, the resurgent Denny Hamlin, the Renaissance man, and then you have Kyle Busch, the resident top dog. But it's not looking that way these days, huh? It's been a pretty rough patch of road for the Candyman. But anyhow, let's get back to Truex Jr. So this is his first win in 31 Phoenix starts. It was absolutely abysmal at this racetrack for many years. Has done well in recent years since he's been in with the Gibbs equipment and the Furniture Row, that same alliance, the Toyotas, but not a really strong performer at this racetrack for whatever reason, but gets 28th career win here, 29th on the all-time wins list, ties him with Carl Edwards, cousin Carl. I'm shocked that Mike Joy didn't drop the cousin Carl reference there when he was talking about this in the recap of the race, and Rex White. And this is the 187th win for JGR, so they're closing in on 200. Probably will reach that mark, if not this year, early next year. And as I said, 2 of the 4 Gibbs cars have won this year, and this is the 7th consecutive year that Martin Truex Jr. has won a race, at least one race, in a season. So he's been consistent as anyone else in this series, and that's why he's one of the top stars. So it's pretty cool, the opening, I think, when NASCAR's trying to drive home, and I think this is so nice to see again, is that they're relying a lot on the history in these broadcasts. And Fox, they showed Alan Kulwicki winning, how popular he was, small market team, tragically loses life in a plane accident. Then you see a lot of historical things that happened in Phoenix. And Bobby Hamilton, when he won in '96 with Richard Petty Enterprises, which was the first time in a while that the 43 car was in the winner's circle. I showed the iconic clip of Mark Martin, the oldest winner at Phoenix. I believe that is about circa 2009 when he was driving for Hendrick. And that was a night race that was run in April. And then you had the melee that ensued in November of 2012 between broadcast colleagues now, bitter enemies at the time, broadcast colleagues Clint Boyer and Jeff Gordon, and you see Joy trying to throw a little shade on them and trying to mix the pot around a bit. There's some ill feeling from that incident nearly 9 years ago. So, I mean, it was fun, I guess, for entertainment value in the event, but I don't know if there's any ill harbor feelings there between Gordon and Boyer. Of course, Gordon has by far the most successful career of the two. Not a contest. And then they showcased Chase Elliott winning the championship there last November, and this is where the finale will be again this year. So I think it's safe to say that all the competitors that were in this race are going to use their notebook and use this race as the barometer, what to expect come November. The temperatures will probably be about the same. I think the race in November will end around the same time the race ended here this week. So I think this was a good omen for Truex Jr., as he even mentioned in the post-race that he wishes this was November and this was the Final Four, and we'd be crowning him a two-time champion. So here comes some early race issues, a brush with the wall, and he took the lead on the final restart with 25 laps to go, holding off Joey Logano by 1.69 seconds for the win. And this is what he said here. A quote from him, as I just alluded to. He says, "I wish it was November, and I was in the Final Four. This feels pretty amazing. Phoenix has been a tough one for us." End quote. And it has been tough. I mean, as he said, you look at the record, it wasn't dazzling. He wasn't really on my radar. But sooner or later, I know when you're in top-tier equipment and you've been one of the top stars in the sport, winning at a lot of the places where you haven't had a lot of success, it kind of seems academic. It's just, you got to wait and see, and the stroke of luck will come your way. James Small, this is his second career win as a crew chief in his second year with Truex Jr. at the top of the pit box. So let's go to our friends. Our favorite thing, one of our favorite things we like to do on this program is go to NASCAR Report on Instagram and read what the NASCAR faithful are saying. And I'm not sure if this was a really popular win. I mean, I don't think there's too many folks that are not Truex Jr. supporters, but I'm not sure if a lot of folks are high on him as well. But let's see what it says here. Posted 2 days ago for a NASCAR Report. If you don't follow him, it's at NASCAR Report on Instagram. Truex wins Phoenix. So let's see what the folks are saying here. Jonas. Horrible race, horrible track. Pause for a minute here. Race, okay, let's talk about my rating for the race. That's a 4. This was a very boring, bland race. I'm going to have to agree with Mr. Jonas here, and I don't know if the track is horrible. It's not the original Phoenix configuration that most of us, probably if you're born in, when I was, 1983, so you grew up watching this stuff in the late 80s, early 90s, and it's not the same configuration. I don't like the way the dog leg, to me, I'm not a fan of. You have a lot of cars going 3, 4, 5 wide. Excuse me, I just had to take a drink there. Recipe for disaster, in my opinion. And Logano almost gets clipped there. That could have been horrific for him had he got clipped there in the dog leg. But it is a horrible truck. I'm going to agree with Jonas. And the reply, Spencer _6 to Mr. Jonas. It was a good race, in my opinion. Jacob King 1204 to Spencer. What made it a good race? Question mark. Yes. Yes, that is the question of the post, Mr. Spencer. What made this a good race? What did you enjoy about the race? Was it the commentary? Was it that Martin Truex Jr. finally won? I'd like to know. So Gustavo Lopez 34 says to Jacob King, 4 and 5 wide restarts. That's what I guess made it interesting if you're into that sort of racing. And then we have Larry 520 to Jonas. 3 teardrop emojis. Don't be so sad. It's okay. And then you have Ryan Barone 28 to Spencer. Meh race. Not great. Not bad. Fair enough. Jacob King back to Gustavo. Yeah, the restarts were good, but that stage 2 was a snooze fest. It amazes me how many people praise single file racing. Pause for a moment. Well, single file racing can be exciting if you got cars that are really good and that have the horsepower. I think single file racing can be really interesting. But that's me. What do I know? Things okay _ to Jonas. Can't believe they made this track the championship race. Jacob King back to things okay. IK Homestead was 100 times better. I guess he's saying, I know. This is the world we live in now. Everything's abbreviated. And goddamn acronyms. Can you just fucking say what you mean? What's with this fucking acronym shit? I just never been a fan of this. I guess that's because of the culture we live in now, the texting and insta messaging. Nobody has a conversation. When was the last time you picked up a phone and actually called somebody? I'm a proponent of that. You got to call your mama every day, people. You got to call your loved ones, and you just never know what the next day. We are even guaranteed the next day. So I think it's good to communicate with the people you love and communicate with friends and family. And I think you just got to live for the moment. But Spencer to Jacob King, good restarts, constant position changes, multiple lanes, work drama crashes, not a great race, but not a horrible race. And then Thomas Doyle to Jonas, hit him with at Bad NASCAR Opinions. So he's saying to check out Mr. Bad NASCAR Opinions on Instagram. And Martin Thiessen says trucks got head. And he puts 2 question marks here, and then the laughing emoji, crying emoji 4 times. Ryan Barone 228. Logano gave him the sucky. Hunter 713 didn't even cross the finish line. And then the reply to Hunter is Anthony Leach. He was them per maid. That makes not an ounce of sense, Mr. Anthony. Hunter back to Anthony. Again, with the, I guess, IK, I know it's just funny. And he has the laughing emoji. J. Stevens 8, stupid bullshit. If it wasn't a rigged Toyota race, I don't know. What was the debris all over the track? No caution, but yet NASCAR threw a caution for a couple of raindrops? Well, I'll stop you there. That's where I give my 2 cents. J. Stevens 8. What a handle on Instagram. They didn't throw a caution because you had a lot of drivers when that debris was on the track. You know, if it was paper, it was paint peeling from the wall, whatever it was. Something, you know, that could have blown in from the grandstands. It was nice to see people back in the grandstands. Great crowd on hand in the COVID era, but it was nice to see more fans each and every week in the grandstands. I think they had the option. This track, I guess, the characteristics of this new configuration is you can run up high, you can run up low, but so if there is debris or it was getting pretty slick up top, you had the option to run the bottom, and I think that's just was the case here. There was no need to throw a caution. Mustang 8310 to Jay Stevens, 1 debris, and it was only sheet metal, which they don't call caution for. Running for Life 21, I like the handle. To Jay Stevens, the roll your eye emoji. Yes, we get it. You're a Chevy fan. And then Jay Stevens to Running for Life, just saying there's debris all over the track, but no caution. And then Jeffrey 19 says to Jay Stevens, 'cause it was sheet metal. And Wyatt Warner, another great name here. Another year, same. Jay Stevens, always there to answer the questions that nobody asks. I guess Mr. Jay Stevens is a legendary figure on this forum or this post. And then Jay Stevens back to Wyatt here. Another year where you care enough to constantly reply every time I say Truex, and he gives the finger flipping the bird emoji. The flipping the bird was something that was done on the racetrack on the Saturday race. Josh Berry flipping off poor Santino Ferrucci. Just getting his feet wet in the Xfinity Series, and you got to flip him off. More on that later. So Jeffrey, the Jay Stevens, another year where we got somebody with a blank space up their ass. And then Jay Stevens back to Jeffrey. Another year of applying to posts you don't like because you have nothing better to do with your life, apparently. That's what I love about these posts. I think that's why it's such fun to read these each and every week. These get so off the track so quick. They drift. Like we veer off course so quickly here. What an attention span we have. We're talking about a guy winning a race, and then you've got people duking it out, taking personal pot shots at one another here. So Jeffrey to Jay Stevens, this will be the last one. I'm done after this comment. Well, let's hope so. But if many are telling you why something did not happen, accept it. I respect your opinion, but you have to acknowledge others as well. And I'll just read one more here. I promise this will be the last one here. I'd like to see some good ones here. Let's see. Which one is worth reading? Okay. I guess this is in reference to Mr. Stevens. Lie DKE28 says, he just crossed the line, bro. Chill. All right, so on to number 2, P2 in the race. Joey Logano, the worst man on commentary in the history of Fox. Can we say that? I just did. You know, when he's on the screen and he's giving his best to bring the driver's perspective to the broadcast, I can appreciate that. He's trying to get analytical. He's trying to sound as if he's this wizard who, knows everything there is to know about a race car, right? I just want to punch the fucking screen when he's on. He's got a face you just want to fucking punch, doesn't he? Only a face a mother can love, that Joey Logano. Well, he finishes second, leads a race high 143 laps, wins stage 2. His first stage win of 2021, that's pretty impressive. He's been shut out, had good cars that have run up front all year, but can't close the deal yet. And Logano, his third consecutive top 5 finish at Phoenix in all 3 Penske cars, led for a total of 63 laps on the day, and Brad Keselowski, his teammate, 4th, 19 laps led for him. I'm waiting for him to win. He's got some wickedly fast cars. And Ryan Blaney seems to be waking up from his coma that he was in earlier this year. Won stage 1, led 35 laps, and he's now 13th in the points. Second consecutive top 10 finish for him. And I guess this 2021 is sort of moving in the right direction for him. It's nice to see him, as I said, wake up from the coma he was in for the first 3 weeks of the season, where he was favored to win this championship by some, or favored to at least be there in the end. It was fairly non-existent. And Denny Hamlin finishes 3rd, leads 33 laps. His first race with the Office Pad sponsorship. And the car, as I got to say, this is what I'm going to talk about the car. I talked a lot to Amanda this week about the car. Did that car look a lot like Bill Elliott Marino Motorsports' 13 car, driven by Jerry Nadeau in 98? It was I guess you had to reverse the teal with the orange. You put the orange and back the teal in the front, but very reminiscent of that car, and it was it's a pretty cool deal. I see different sponsors on the 11 car. It was so used to seeing the FedEx color, so Office Pad gets themselves a good race. He remains the point leader, his 4th top 5 in 2021. Good notes for when they return in November. I believe if Denny Hamlin's thinking about the big picture and the championship, you got to almost feel that he's going to be there again. He has been, I think, without winning the championship itself, has been one of the best, maybe the best in all of NASCAR over the past 3 years, and 4 top 5s in the last 5 Phoenix races. So that's a good omen for him. Christopher Bell, 9th place, 3rd top 10 in the last 4 races for him, so that team's running well. And Chase Elliott finishes 5th at the place where he won his first championship in the sport, in the Cup Series anyway, at Phoenix in November. And the bid for 3 consecutive for Hendrick falls just a little short here. But the Hendrick cars had a great day. 3 of them sent to the back for unapproved adjustments the day prior, and they all rallied back to be... Him and Larson pretty much were in contention for the win, or at least in shouting distance of it, and sniffed the lead, where William Byron wasn't going to be a winning car, but still rallied back as well. And for Mr. Elliott here, this is his second best finish of the year. Has been kind of quiet too with the runner-up finish at Daytona. Has had some issues, and it's nice to see him at least have a shot at it here. And Kyle Larson rallies back not only from failing inspection and having to come back from the rear, he rallies back from a pit roading penalty, speeding on pit road a little too fast. 7th place for him, his 4th top 10 of 2021. And William Byron, as you mentioned, with the Hendrick crew, 8th. 3rd consecutive top 10 finish. It's nice to see him finally living up to the hype that everyone had for him when he went to Cup. So Kevin Harvick, the 9-time Phoenix winner, finishes 6th, earning his 4th top 10 of the season. The once dominant Harvick, it's hard to believe, has not won. Well, it's not that it's hard to believe, but I think his stranglehold over this track for a little bit is on hiatus here. He gets himself close, but not yet, to get back to the winner's circle. He hasn't visited there since September of 2018. However, he's in some pretty elite company. He's up there now with Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, and Jimmy Johnson for having 16 consecutive top 10 finishes at one particular track. So that's still a place that Harvick likes to run. And we have some best finishes of the year for a few drivers in 2021. Eric Almirola, 11th. Matty Benedetto, 14th. And Bubba Wallace leads for a few laps, but gets swallowed up on pit strategy. His tires weren't as fresh as some of the leaders on one of the restarts, and he finishes 16th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 12th place finish. And all of his races this year, top 20 finishes. That is mighty impressive. And this year in the top 20 for him. But the last 3 have been in the top 15. So it's only a matter of time before the JTG Jordy car of Ricky Stenhouse gets himself a top 10. And the disappointment of the race, and I hate to do this, but you thought following the 3rd place at Vegas, momentum was starting to shift towards Kyle Busch and the 18 car. Well, he finishes 25th here. Ill-handling car. Gets spun out by Ross Chastain. He's caught up in someone else's mess. I mean, he did finish the race, but just didn't have any momentum into this one. And I think the momentum they built up the week prior just seems to be gone out the window here. And I know Ben Bayshore and him have had a lot of success in Xfinity together, but for whatever reason, coming off a pretty stale 2020 where he hasn't looked that great, it's this is kind of tough to watch, to see Kyle Busch struggle like this. But maybe they'll get it going in Atlanta. I know he's won there twice, but the 18 car is just not looking like the 18 car as of late. So Truex Jr. following the post-race, Cat was let out of bag by his sponsor. I guess it wasn't supposed to be announced, but Auto Owners Insurance posted on Twitter following this win that they want to get the blue car back in the winner's circle. Well, he put the Atlanta Dirt Race on there, and yeah, he'll actually be running the 54 car in the Xfinity Series. So he's kind of going back and having some fun now, getting to race the Xfinity and Truck Series. Well, he will run the truck race. His first truck race since 2006 at Michigan when he drove for Billy Ballou. He's going to drive for Kyle Busch Motorsports here. So when is the last time he was asked in his presser following the race? When is the last time he raced on dirt? And are you looking forward to it? Are you nervous? Are you scared? This is what Truex had to say. Quote, I'm excited. I'm excited about it. I have only raced twice on dirt. Both of them were at Schrader's charity race in Missouri. Did that a few times in a modified. I've grown up on four-wheelers and motorcycles. It's going to be a learning curve for sure. I'll look at it as Bristol has been our worst track for the past couple of years. Why the heck not lay down and see what we can do? I think it's going to be fun, a new challenge, something different. End quote. So this Bristol dirt race, I know it's getting a lot of hype. I think it's kind of going back to the roots of the early days of beach racing in NASCAR. They haven't raced on dirt since 1970. Bristol's always a racetrack that people love because the beating and banging, close quarters, such a tiny little facility, but the cars are very fast there, always tight racing. Somebody's mad at somebody. I don't know how I feel about this. I think it worked in the Truck Series. It was an attraction with Eldora, and it works in a lower tier series. I don't know how this is going to work for the Cup Series. I have reservations myself about this. I could be proven wrong. I mean, that does happen on occasion, and I think it's good that the sport is trying to reach new heights, and they're trying to make the sport interesting more than it already is. I think they're adding to the intrigue, and I will commend them for doing this. However, I just don't know in a championship points race, if this is done as an exhibition, fine. You know, you do a dash for cash, something of that nature, but to have a points-paying race on a dirt track with a different format than a usual standard Sunday drive, I'm not digging this. I hope I'm wrong, because I do like to see the sport expand and try new things, and I think it's good to try new things. I think it's good to spice things up. Little extra cheese on that Whopper. I just don't know if this is going to stand the test of time. But we're going to do it. We're less than 2 weeks away from it. It's advertised every time you watch a race on Fox. They're amped up for this one. So Kevin Harvick, in other news, adds 3 Xfinity races to his schedule in preparation for the amount of road courses that have been added to the schedule, the Corona modified schedule, I guess you could call it. And Ryan Preece will do 2 truck races. The KHI management drivers, Kevin Harvick, will return to the Xfinity Series for 3 road course races. May 22nd, the Circuit of the Americas at Austin, Texas. Road America and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. Harvick's last Xfinity race was Darlington, September of 2018. And he will drive a car prepared by Stewart Haas Racing in those 3 races. 47 career wins to his name in Xfinity competition. And everyone will remember that race where Harvick and Ross Chastain, the legend of Ross Chastain, was growing. The watermelon farmer was having a career run for Chip Ganassi Racing. Harvick got into him, hung him out to dry in the post race. Pretty much said, these folks can have fast cars, but there's not a lot of talent behind the wheel. And I guess a lot of folks treated Harvick as the heel in this, and he did nothing wrong, man. He's racing there too, and I think a lot of folks are still pretty sour about the fact that these Cup drivers were still invading the Xfinity and truck races and taking a lot of the trophies home. It's been limited to 5 races now, so that's good news for everyone, and I'll admit, it's made the series far more competitive than it has been in a number of years. But after that, Harvick kind of got a sour taste in his mouth about the Xfinity Series, took a little hiatus, and it's good to see him back. And in trucks, we'll run the Bristol Dirt Race in preparation for the big event that is going to take place on the 28th, the much-anticipated Race on Dirt. He'll be running for David Gilliland Racing. This is his first truck race since Pocono in June of 2015, where he was driving for JR Motorsports. 14 career truck wins, and Hunt Brothers Pizza will sponsor that effort. And this is what Harvick's quote was when he was asked about his foray back into the lower tier series. And this is the quote, "I tell all of the drivers we represent at KHI Management that nothing beats seat time, and that nothing beats going out there, and that goes for me as well." End quote. And here's another quote he said later in the transcript. "I can learn and have some fun all at the same time. Road course racing and dirt track racing is a challenge, and I am always up for a challenge." End quote. So this is in preparation. I get why he's doing this. This is strictly strategic, right? He wants to prepare for all the road course races, and he's been good on road courses. But Austin, Texas, and Road Americas, and even the road course at Indianapolis is going to be a wild card in this whole race for the championship. I think it adds that layer we talk about of the unexpected. It's a new curveball, I think, for these drivers to figure out, and having so many road courses on the schedule. Before it was just 2 stops a year, Watkins Glen and Sonoma. So I think it adds some intrigue. I'm not against this, but I think that's wise for some of these Cup drivers to get into the Xfinity car or the truck and get, as Harvick mentioned in his quote, the valuable seat time. There's nothing that can beat that if you're going to prepare for a racetrack that you haven't had a lot of laps around. And Ryan Preece will drive also for David Gilliland at Pocono in June and Nashville. And the Hunt Brothers Pizza and Morton Builders will sponsor those efforts. And the Nashville race will be actually Ryan Preece's debut in the truck series. I looked through Ryan Preece's career accolades on Racing Reference. Bit of a shock that he has not run a truck race yet. So it's pretty cool to see. And Ryan Preece is doing a pretty admirable job this year in Cup with the JTG Doherty effort. Remember, not a chartered team. That's what everyone keeps pointing out. No, doing chartered. Well, it's doing a great job. So, other news just broke today, actually, that LeBron James has been added as a partner for the Fenway Sports Group. Fenway Sports Group's growth ambitions received a double dose of hopeful news today, on this day, Tuesday, March the 16th. The parent company of the Boston Red Sox and the Liverpool Football Team Club been approved for a $750 million private investment that would make the Redbird Capital Partners its third largest partner. And another development of this story is that LeBron James, Los Angeles Lakers great, multi-time NBA world champion, becomes a partner in the Fenway Sports Group. And that is also the part owner of by this, he becomes the part owner of the Red Sox. And the other Fenway Sports Group subsidiaries, including the New England Sports Network, Roush Fenway Racing, and Fenway Sports Management. So we'll read what people have to say about this on NASCAR Report, because I know how interesting things are with this announcement. When Michael Jordan and at 2311 was first introduced, and then Brad Daugherty, another basketball star from the golden era of basketball, in my opinion, the late 80s, early 90s, with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's one of the part owners of JTG Doherty Racing. So it's pretty cool to see this, the mainstream athletes and celebrities who want to get involved in NASCAR. So this is good for the sport. It's very healthy, saying that this sport is going in a different direction. It's become mainstream. I know that on another podcast, What Happened When with Tony Schiavone and Conrad Thompson, how Schiavone sometimes complains about NASCAR has gone too mainstream. It's abandoned its southern roots. Well, it is a global phenomenon. It's more than just a little southern racing series. It's not, I think, I like Schiavone. I like the podcast, but I think he's way off there. I think NASCAR going with going globally, going to new racetracks, going to California, going to New England, Dover, Delaware. This is good for this sport. I think it brings out more fans to the track, so people that may not have an opportunity to see NASCAR. I was really happy when the Nationwide Series at the time, now the Xfinity, came to Montreal. I live in Ottawa, so close to NASCAR action. Was just so close to me that I couldn't help it. I have to go every year and support the series, and I do miss seeing the Xfinity Series in Montreal. So back to this. So we have LeBron partnering with the Fenway Sports Group, and let's see what our friends here at NASCAR Report who posted, and let's see what the folks who follow the page say. JGR Nation 1119. It won't help our Roush Fenway Racing. Riley 20. Let's hope this makes Roush Fenway Racing slightly more competitive. They've fallen off the last few seasons. Well, it's an understatement, Mr. Riley. We kind of know that. Cap Coaster fan to Riley. It would be great to see them succeed. Well, would it? Yeah, it would. And we have Churro Soldier to Riley. Buscher is doing well so far. He's a guy that came up just a bit too early from Xfinity, but it seemed like he's finding his stride this season. And the Cup Coaster fan to Churro. Kind of funny how him and Stenhouse basically swapped teams, and now they're both doing better. Joshua Knit to Riley. I'm sure this changes nothing at all from day to day at Roush Fenway. Then Riley to Josh. Maybe James would put money or capital into equipment, etc. And NASCAR International. First Michael Jordan. Now we have LeBron as a part-time owner. What a world we live in. Laugh my fucking ass off. And then we have Custom Model SCO to NASCAR International. Not really. MJ is an actual race team owner, whereas LeBron is just a partner in a company that represents hundreds of organizations and firms. LeBron most likely doesn't care about NASCAR. And then Colt Marcel 18 says to NASCAR National, don't forget about Brad Doherty. And Jacob King 1204, we've heard from him already today. MJ was cool. This is not. And then the response to that, MJ is cool. This is not. We have Andrew Sanford, okay. And Angela Gray Worcester says, he's just an attention whore, exclamation mark. And then we have Chase Elliott D19. First MJ, Alvin Kamara's restaurant, The Big Squeezy, sponsoring Ryan Vargas. And now this? What? And then he has the bulging eyes emoji. And then we have Eric Truden. I guess I don't fully know how to feel. Period. Cool. Question mark. Virtual card, Eric. Maybe Roush Fenway Racing could get better equipment. Maybe they could. You think LeBron will dip into his wallet and magically Roush Fenway Racing will be a top-tier team again? I don't know. Maybe kinda Connor. What is it? Maybe kinda Connor? The virtual car. Bring back championship contending Roush Fenway Racing. And then we have Joe here. Joe Richmeyer. LeBron probably didn't even know the team was included. And he's got the laughing emoji. Shane Hunt 2019. Oh, great. And he's got the angry face emojis. Jackson the NASCAR fan 1041. Holy shit. That was unexpected. My goodness, eh? And then we have here some more live racing. Incoming Angry Boomers. Magnetic Blackout. That is a sweet handle. Okay, so now I hate the Sox and Roush Fenway Racing. Why do you hate them? Because LeBron James is part of the Roush Fenway Racing group? Wow. So we'll put this to sleep. We've got other business to take care of, but not a very popular announcement, I guess. But it's true. What a lot of folks are saying in that post is that it's not as if he's going to have any say in the day-to-day operation of Roush Fenway Racing. it just gives it that street cred. It gives it that little bit of pizzazz that really isn't going to translate to a lot of success on the track. It's going to have no impact, really. And that's not to say that the name value for LeBron James isn't there. Of course it's there. It sells jerseys. It sells running shoes. It sells a lot of merch. Everybody loves the Lakers. I'm a huge Laker guy. Bleed gold and purple. But again, it's just another business investment for LeBron once he hangs it up and no longer wants to play basketball for a living. This is something that he wants to do outside of the sport, and I can respect that. And I think a lot of people just taking that a little too to heart there. So Rick's Xfinity race was on Saturday. And that was also a snooze fest as well. The commentary has been not the greatest this year. And I know Daniel Suarez took a lot of heat, a lot of social media memes, and people really just being not cool, off-color comments about his accent. He's Spanish, for fuck's sakes. He's not going to have clear, pristine English that is clear and concise. My goodness, people. What the fuck were you expecting? It's better than Joey Logano and his filibustering and his talking in riddles and metaphors and proverbs and Jesus fucking mercy. This was not a great broadcast. I get that. But to come after Suarez for his heritage, come on, people. We're better than that. It wasn't a great broadcast. But anyhow, let's move on from that. Cindric wins his second race of 2021, taking a 3.2 victory over 18-year-old Ty Gibbs on the final restart. Sort of a receipt. Cindric pays back Ty for squeaking one out there on the road course. And Cindric backed up his win in November at Phoenix with this incredible win here. And he had a nice lead of the race, led 119 of the 200 laps run. And he has just been really good here, led the final 450 laps, holding off the drivers that were right behind him in contention on that final restart. Cindric has finished in the top 5 in all 5 races this year. So not only does he win the championship last year, he's backing it up, and he's going to run the Cup race at Atlanta this weekend, as you know. And this win for him was his 10th career victory, tying Jason Keller, Bobby Labonte, and Robert Presley. Some pretty big names. Championship driver in Bobby Labonte in the what was then the Busch Series, now Xfinity, and Jason Keller, who was a staple in this series for years. Ty Gibbs, fresh off an ARCA win on Friday, finishes second here in his second career Xfinity race, a 1-2 to start his career. I'm not sure. I tried to look back in the notes, and I couldn't find anything where a driver started his career this hot, where you win and then you're runner-up. So good for Ty Gibbs. I think this is we're going to see more out of him, and just a fun driver to watch on the racetrack. So young and so inexperienced, but making the best of the equipment, and he's got the top-tier equipment in this series, that's for sure. And if you like underdog stories, true underdog stories, and people that you just want to see good things happen to good people, well, that's Brandon Brown. He earned his best career finish in the series, 3rd in 91 career starts, and he ties his top 5 total from last year, and he's 3 top 10s away from reaching the amount that he reached in 2020. So that's pretty cool to see. Brandon Brown, who is essentially a family-owned team, underfunded, not a whole lot going on there, but being able to mix it up with the big names in the sport and looking pretty dazzling and pretty good there for most of the races I've seen him in this year. And it's an interesting story, and it's a great story for this series, because this series has taken a lot of flack through the years, that it's not appointment television like it once was. It's sort of, I'll just skip this and watch the highlights. Riley Herbst finished 4th, his best finish of 2021, survives a melee on the restart, and finishes in the top 5 here. Right place, right time for him. And I don't want to shit on Riley Herbst. I really don't. I think this guy takes a lot of flack online, and he's a fucking time bomb, man. He has nuclear heat with a lot of people, but I I give him credit. He kept the car clean this week. And much was made on the commentary that when he was running in the top 20, but top 15-ish, that this is the car that Chase Briscoe dominated with in Vegas, and then how Chase Briscoe is such a better driver than him. So I think that's not fair. I think this guy, I know, I personally don't really care for him. I watched some videos to get familiar about who he was before the season, because I didn't watch a lot of Xfinity last year. And it was pretty peculiar that Joe Gibbs, even with the Monster sponsorship secured, just kind of threw him away without really a fight, that he didn't fit into their plans, right? And there's not a lot of people saying nice things about him, no pleasantries, but I try to give credit where credit's due, and I think there's not maybe a lot of talent at the wheel, but I also think he's in a compromising position where he's out there trying to make a living. He wants to make a name for himself in the racing business. So you can't fault him for this. But, I mean, he could be there because he does bring the sponsorship dollars. But for whatever you have it, he has got a lot of nuclear heat, and it's good to see him up front. Colleague Racing, this strong run continues for this team. This team is vastly becoming perhaps the best team in all of Xfinity. 5th for AJ Allmendinger, fresh off his Vegas win. 3rd top 5 in 2021, now sits 4th in the points. Championship contender. I think this is someone that you're going to have to contend with, and guess where he's going next week? Atlanta. Place where he won last year, his first win on an oval. For those who forgot he won on an oval last year, when they said he won at Las Vegas, he already won on an oval. Jesus Christ, that was my best Owen impression there. And Jeff Burton was 6th. Keeps the top 10 streak alive in the Xfinity Series. Top 10 in the last 6 races. And that he's entered in the Xfinity Series. 3rd in the points. Seems like he's going to be the next winner here. I know a lot of people are waiting for Daniel Hemrick. So are we. Daniel Hemrick deserves to be a winner. If any more than anyone, I think. But I think Jeff Burton is having a career year. And I think it's just been really cool to see this guy who, have a lot of success early in his career in the Truck Series, and for whatever reason felt the pressure to get into Cup, get into situations that maybe weren't in his best interests. So he takes a step back, does the part-time thing, resurfaces, and he's a bona fide championship contender here with Colleague, and I just think it's not going to be too much longer before we see him take a checkered flag. And if you like other underdog stories that are not Brendan Brown, how about Bailey Curry? Best finish of his career, 7th in 55 Xfinity starts. And this was the best finish for Mark Harmon. Summer School. I got Summer School and NCIS on my brain there. But Mike Harmon, who we don't hear a lot about anymore. But anyway, had the interview with Michael Annette a couple years ago, and how he called him an idiot and so forth. But anyway, I was just bizarre to see someone interview Mike Harmon. But anyway, Mike Harmon Racing, previous best was 8th with Kyle Weatherman at Kentucky in 2020. So a round of applause for Mr. Harmon and Bailey Curry. Both career best. Yeah. Deservedly so for those guys. So JR Motorsports, who is a top-tier team in NASCAR, Xfinity, nightmare of a season continues for these guys. It's horrid. But Justin Allgaier finishes 8th, his best of 2021, leads 32 laps. And that's the best he's looked this year. He's been, victim of circumstance, caught up in things that weren't always his fault. But 11th in the standings. Probably will be in championship contention by the time the year is over, but it's a bit of a shock to see JR Motorsports really struggle out of the gate like this. And Allgaier is one of those guys who raced Cup. He's been to the top and sort of scaled his way back down here, and it's not a lot of firepower. He's come up short in the championship, and he's in a really critical place in his career. I know he could probably stay in this ride if he wanted to for a few more years, but it just very bizarre to see him not finding his footing here this year. And you have the engine failures for Noah Gragson, 39th place. Finished his this is this fourth race this season where he's been 39th or worse. 19th in the points, and this guy's viewed as a championship contender. He really is. A lot of people think Noah Gragson is a talented young dude that is going to change the face of the sport. That's clearly not the case here. I've seen nothing out of him, and I know again, the thing with David Starr was, it is what it was. It's a racing deal, and he made more out of it than it is. Actually made David Starr look more like the hero there, because David Starr was getting himself a lot of media coverage. So he kind of did him the favor there. But I think, Carl Gragson, I think you're running out of talent there. I don't know if this is a guy that's going to really make it. It's not looking good for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Maybe this wasn't the right choice to have him in the car. But it's... I've got a lot of nice things to say about the guy, so I'm just going to kind of stop here, but I just don't think he's very good.
Bummer.
Yep, it's a bummer, isn't it? And Michael Annett, his other teammate, finishes 38th. Also is retired from the race with engine failure. And Josh Berry, who continues to improve in these cars, 36th place finish, gets turned around by Santino Ferrucci, and then he flips him off. And it's bleeped out. Like, why would you bleep out or color his fingers? We know what, just they say worse things on the air, and they're covering someone flipping off the bird. Yeah. But that's what it was. For him, this has been Barry's, he was going for 3 consecutive top 10s here. That comes to a crashing halt. And other guys, I think, Jeremy Clements is often taken for granted in this series. I think we don't look at him as a viable contender. We don't really give him a lot of props, really. But 10th here, third in the third top 10 in the last 4 races. He's 10th in the points. Could be a guy to watch at playoff time. He looks like he might get into the playoffs. And with all the road courses on the schedule this year, remember when he ran Road America a couple years ago, pulled off the victory. Unexpected. One of the biggest upsets, I think, in not only Xfinity history, but NASCAR history. And I think Jeremy Clements is continuing to rack up career starts and really doing this with an underfunded team. So I think these are the unsung heroes. These are the real backbone of this sport is people like a Jeremy Clements. So it's kind of cool to see this. Matty Benedetto, we'll talk about him soon, but Daniel Hemrick. I think he'll get the disappointing card for me in this one in Xfinity Series. He hauls out his best effort every week. He's swinging for the fences here. 23rd place finish, leads 44 laps, stage 2 winner. Remains second in the points, but a poor pit stop and speeding on pit road. Just really rookie mistakes from a guy who's a veteran in this series. But he worked his way back into contention in the top 10, but got shuffled on the restart and gets caught up in the debris there. The 5-wide racing, gets caught in the marbles and just didn't have the car to power his way to the front. So disappointing day for a driver that I think is the next driver to win here. He's been automatic, and it's time that Daniel Hemrick finally gets that albatross from around his neck, and he wins, but it just wasn't to be on this day. So, now we're 5 races in. I'm really digging this season for Cup. I think it's been fun. There's been some good action, unexpected winners, and overall been very competitive. So we're going to talk with some drivers now who I think should be a little worried right now. Is it time to panic? Is it time to... I'm a fire in my laser! Is it time to panic for some drivers in the Cup Series? They're deep in the points. For whatever reason, to no fault of their own, are struggling, have not quite kept their end of the bargain, and are not looking too hot. The first is Matty Benedetto. Did finish, he's fresh off his best finish of 2021, 14th at Phoenix. but 28th in the points compared to where he was a year ago. He's only finished on the lead lap at the Phoenix race, and the rest of the Penske team is running. And he's not a Penske driver. Let's make that clear. We all know the Wood Brothers affiliate. Him driving for the Wood Brothers is a satellite team. They have an affiliation, so he's got to be running pretty much not the same setups, but he's getting some assistance with the engine department and the chassis from Penske. Those cars are running well. Blaney came out struggling, but is sort of turning it around. So this point, a year ago, so in 2020, he was 9th in the points and had the runner-up finish at Vegas. Austin Cindric is waiting in the wings in this car. We know Matty Benedetto's future. He's not going to be in the 21 past 21. It's an uneasy feeling probably for him. I think he's feeling a lot of pressure because I think by virtue of being him, that lovable loser, that lovable underdog that climbed his way to the top from obscurity, really, with BK Racing and Go Fast, and made the Go Fast team look pretty capable most weeks, right? So to see him struggle here, it's tough to watch because you're rooting for Matty Benedetto. You want him to do well. He seems like a very nice guy, and you seem that, again, a victim here of his own success maybe, or lack thereof. Levine family, he gets the rub with JGR. He's back in the fold. But once cast-off driver returns home, and again a satellite operation with Levine family, nearly beats Dane Hamlin, and that on the Bristol course night race, nearly gets by him. Would have been an incredible Cinderella story to see Matty Benedetto through all of the trials and tribulations, peaks and valleys, come out on top smelling like a rose. But he finishes runner-up to him that race. And then now it's not long after, Christopher Bell's taking the car. He finds solace and he finds a good ride with the Wood Brothers. Penske backing. But where are the results? Looked good last year, made the playoffs, wasn't a factor. A lot of people knew he wasn't going to be a factor. So that can't be good going into this, knowing that the deck is stacked against you. But you may not come out on the other side all that great. And then you have Austin Cindric, who is winning Xfinity races. He's a champion. This is his ride. And I was thinking, if there is a shift in the Penske organization, which there might be, Brad Keselowski only signed a one-year extension. So with that being said, was there an opportunity that Cindric just goes to Penske? They keep Di Benedetto in this car. That's all going to really depend on Matt Di Benedetto and his performance. And that's what he's going to be judged on. And even to get a ride outside, a competitive ride outside of this Wood Brothers team when this relationship ends at the end of the year. It's not looking hot for Matt D. It's just not. Could he go back to race Xfinity, being in a competitive Xfinity ride? That could be an option. He's mentioned this before, that he would go down to the trucks or to the Xfinity Series if it meant having a shot at winning races and being in competition each and every week for a championship. But has he reached his ceiling? Is this where the feel-good story doesn't get a happy ending for Matt Di Benedetto? Is it time to panic? Is Matt Di Benedetto in serious jeopardy not being in the Cup Series anymore? And this is a guy, I'm telling you, at Daytona, had he been in the Michael McDowell position and won, it would have just blew up the internet, man. This guy would have been the king of the castle, everyone's favorite underdog. But it just didn't work. He didn't find a win at a racetrack where maybe he had his best opportunity. So now the panic meter, where should it be? On a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is, nah, we'll be okay. It's still early in the season. Where 10 is your fucking house is on fire and you are only in your slippers and your bathrobe and you got to get the fuck out of your house. What's the panic meter for Mr. Matt Di Benedetto? Can he turn this around? I mean, yes, he's got the Penske power behind him. The Wood Brothers is a beloved team. Can they make this work? I'm saying at this moment, the panic meter for Mr. Matty Benedetto, if he doesn't get out and crack the whip, is an 8. Not quite burning, but the seat's getting mighty fucking hot, man. So you got an 8. Eric Almirola, another driver here, another Ford driver, 11th at Phoenix. So this was his. Ironically, these two guys make the list, but they're coming off their best runs of the year. So there is a glimmer of hope if you're Matty Benedetto fans and Eric Almirola fans. Stewart-Haas Racing has really struggled collectively as a whole in 2021. 26th in the points. Involved in 2 crashes in 2021, Daytona and Las Vegas. He's going for his 4th consecutive playoff appearance. That's in severe jeopardy right now. Because if he's in this position, and this was August, this is late July, panic buttons at 10, man. The house is just coming on down. It is smoldering. But he needs something to ignite him. What could that be? Maybe Talladega. Maybe Daytona. He's kind of got the rap of being one of those guys. He's got the 2 wins. But it almost seems like he's that plate guy. The guy, somewhat of a Michael Waltrip of this era where he's won, but it's only at plate races. You can count on him there. He's reliable. But was his first year when he won that dramatic race at Talladega with Stewart-Haas Racing, was this where he peaked? Because it's kind of been downhill for him since. He was 7th in points through the first 5 races in 2020. He had 2 top 10 finishes. Needs a strong 2021, I think, to maintain his positioning with Stewart-Haas Racing, which is a top-tier team. I know it looks like Kevin Harvick runs the gauntlet here, and the only car that matters in this stable is Harvick. But this team, at one point, was neck and neck with Harvick, this number 10 car. It had Danica fucking Patrick at the wheel at one point. And I think Danica got a... I'm going to come to Danica's defense again. I think Danica didn't get a fair shake here. I think Stewart-Haas Racing, as in an article that's been released this week, let Danica down. They dropped the ball with Danica. Danica should have been the first female driver to make a playoff appearance and win in the Cup Series. Didn't happen. I think Stewart-Haas Racing is letting as a whole their drivers down this year. You've got Chase Briscoe, who's made this list. It's looked non-existent. Cole Custer's here because Cole Custer's dad is part of this team. Joe Custer is one of the big top dogs in the organization. Eric Almirola, again, a guy who running sort of middle of the pack tier teams his whole career, feels like he gets his big break, and all the sizzle is not there anymore. He's falling. He's falling like a rock this season. So his motivation should be, and he's got a great relationship with the sponsorship Smithfield Foods. They're 100% behind him. They've been with him now for a decade, dating back to his days with RPM. So he has that going for him. He has the commitment of the sponsors, which is really rarefied air in this era of NASCAR. It's good to have your sponsors who are total support of your efforts. So he's got that going for him. But how much longer before the brass at Stewart-Haas Racing get impatient with him, where you're seeing Kevin Harvick, who's in championship contention every year, winning races, and then this team cannot find themselves even close to the winner's circle? When do you make that move? I think it's early. I think Almirola's a resilient driver. But if he's known as only those guys that can win on the plate races, you need that boost. You sort of have that confidence booster that you can win on the intermediate tracks.
You gotta speak up.
Exactly. You gotta push yourself, Almirola. You gotta kick a little, man. Cause a stir. Sometimes you gotta make some noise to be heard. Remember that unless you want to finish last. The great words of Little Texas. 1992. Harvick, man. this can't be the Harvick show all the time. You need to be... I think if you ask a casual NASCAR friend to say, who are Kevin Harvick's teammates? Name 3 of his teammates. The other 3, you might not be able to come up with them. Eric Almirola might be the first choice, obviously. But you got to kind of make that stand, Eric Almirola. You got to dig down deep. Got to win on an intermediate track. But at the moment, your panic meter, unfortunately, you're at a 9, man. It does not look good for you, man. That's your warning. Get it done, man. Win on a plate. Win a race that's not a plate race. Forget all the past about Daytona. Forget about that win at Talladega. That is eons ago. It's time to focus on the here and now. Get yourself a win on an intermediate track. You can do it. Next, Corey LaJoie. Brand new team Spire. A lot made of Corey LaJoie. He's almost seen in the same vein as our friend Matty Benedetto. A guy that, again, an underdog you want to root for. Somebody that you want to believe in. Someone that you believe deserves a fair shot. Someone who's been marginalized. Been with lower tier teams. He's just there riding laps in Cup. He's a field filler. That's what he didn't want to happen here at Spire. So 9th at the Daytona 500. They look great. The engine failure at Homestead relegates him to a 25th place positioning. Las Vegas 37th. Leads 12 laps here at Phoenix. Trying to pull strategy, but can't capitalize. Finishes 27th. I get it. And I think much has been made of him leaving Go Fast for the same reason Matty Benedetto did it. He played the copycat game, where he wanted to leave and find a brand new opportunity, but with a top-tier team. Poured his heart out in a very, very heartfelt letter to Rick Hendrick about taking the position when Jimmy Johnson left, but to no avail. Says that he had a deal lined up with RCR, Richard Petty Motorsports. For whatever reason, turned those down because he believed in what was going to be happening here at Spire. And he admitted in the Dale Jr. podcast when he was a guest with his father, Randy, who is an Xfinity champion, but wasn't much of a Cup driver. So he's already done that, I guess, where he's surpassing his old man, where he's had more, I guess he's going to be looked a lot better in the starts he's been in than Randy. But I think Corey's almost in the same vein as again, Matty Benedetto, where is going to the Xfinity Series in a top-tier ride. Is getting that exposure in the Cup Series, wanting to be that lovable underdog. Does that net you a top-tier ride with the trucks or with the Xfinity Series? And you take that chance. You scale back and you go for the wins. You follow what Jeb Burton did. Follow what A.J. Allmendinger's doing. These are guys that have gone back, who've had the taste of Cup racing, and are now in pretty competitive rides in the hunt for wins every week, where LaJoie is, again, coming off as a field filler. And that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to run 30th every week, and that's what he's made it known. He's been adamant about this. And then you have this whole thing with Spire, and it's not really working out well. He's 29th in the points. He was 26th at this point in the season last year with Go Fast. So he's kind of digressing a bit. And he's been outrun by Justin Haley, his teammate at Spire, who's running a part-time schedule for three of the 4 races that he's been in. So when a team that's not the primary team, this is the part-time team, is outrunning you. And Justin Haley is a tremendous talent and will be in the Cup Series not far too long. I'd be panicked if I was Corey LaJoie. It's not looking great. I know Spire is a newer team. They're finding their footing. It's growing pains, and that's what is to be expected. But it's not looking good. And he's going to have to rely, yes, on the plate tracks to try to make the playoffs. And he's got to maintain his positioning in the top 30. He will do that because there's not a lot of the teams that are running full-time in this series that are going to be in that position where they're not going to be within that top 30. But the only way he's going to make it, and he's got to win, and his best two opportunities are going to be Daytona, Talladega. And I'm not sure they can get the job done there. Spire's a good team, and they've won. They've won with Justin Haley in an upset. So that should give a lot of hope to LaJoie. But at this point, it's not enough. The panic meter should be at 10. The house is on fire.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Corey LaJoie, to do this to you, but things are coming crashing down, man, and it's hurting inside. Chase Briscoe is next. 25th in the points. Best finish of the season for him, 18th at Homestead. I know this might be a little harsh. He's a rookie, and he's running with Anthony Alfredo. Guy with not a lot of experience, has never run a full season in any of the top 3 series. But 24th in the points. A year ago was Cole Custer as a rookie, and he had one top 10 finish to his credit. Chase Briscoe, well, he's been on the lead lap in 3 of the 5 of the races, so that's encouraging. At least he's not completely tearing up cars or hasn't really gotten into a lot of issues. So Briscoe is showing a lot of maturity there. Seat time's been good. But you're coming off a breakout Xfinity Series campaign where you have 9 wins, 16 top 5s, 22 top 10s. You're 4th in the points. I think another year, in my opinion, Xfinity would have been ideal for him. He could have battled. Could have seen that great battle between him and Austin Cindric play out another year. Cindric plays his cards right. He stays in the series, has a ride lined up for next year. Chase Briscoe, it almost seemed that Stewart-Haas Racing has forced him into this, pushing him too soon. And Chase Briscoe, it can't be fun. You go from nearly winning a championship a year ago, winning races with this team, and doing it in dominant fashion to just battling it out with Anthony Alfredo. And Alfredo was outraced him in one race, was a better finisher. And Alfredo, that's why we don't put him on this list, because he's not expected to do much. The expectation meter is low for Chase Briscoe. Anthony Alfredo, because he's an equipment that's not top tier. Front Row Motorsports, yes, is a Daytona 500 championship winning team, but that's when they pull out the big guns, is at the plate races, because that's when the field is so equal. For Chase Briscoe, it's got to be frustrating. And I know it's still early on in his career. I'm not saying he's completely fucked, but you're in top tier equipment, man. You got to make the best, and you've got the talent. So if you got the talent, combine that with Stewart-Haas Racing's equipment, the results should be there, and they should be there later on. Cole Custer won a goddamn race, and I don't think Cole Custer is no better than a Chase Briscoe. He's got the same amount of talent. Cole Custer was a good Xfinity driver who sniffed the surface, was there in the championship battle every year, that he was in the series full time. This is what should be expected of Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe's not quite living up to that, but it is only 5 races in. So I'm going to put Chase Briscoe's panic meter, just because of his lack of experience in a Cup car, never even ran the series prior to the Daytona 500. Going to put that panic meter for Mr. Briscoe at about a 5. We'll revisit this at the halfway point, but at this point, Chase Briscoe has been a bit of a letdown. Alex Bowman, why is he on this list? Yeah, you say, well, in 2020, he had 1 win at Fontana, was 2nd at Darlington, and he was 2nd in the points. This season, he finds himself 19th in the points, 2 top 10 finishes. Best finish was 9th at Homestead, and he's now in the famous 48 car that a legend, one of the greatest NASCAR drivers of all time, Jimmy Johnson, was the pilot of. It's got the same crew chief, Greg Guy. So essentially, this is the 88 team running the 48. The real 48 is the 5 car that Kyle Larson's running. So you could use that in defense. And they've already won a race this year. Bowman looked good again this week. Rallied back from a spin. Finished on the lead lap. But when you have William Byron winning, you have Kyle Larson, who's a story in itself, him at Hendrick this year, and Chase Elliott's your defending champion, you sort of feel like the odd man out, right? You have incredible talent. All 4 drivers are incredibly talented. This is the best roster of drivers, in my opinion, is at Hendrick right now. Alex Bowman, it's nice to see him become a star with Hendrick. Because much like the other guys we talked about in this, Corey LaJoie, Matty Benedetto, have run lower tier teams in the past. Alex Bowman was in that same boat not long ago, got his big break when he subbed for Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 2016 and made the most of the opportunity, turned some heads, finds himself here at Hendrick Motorsports and has become a winning driver. I don't think the panic meter is going to be high here. I know when you're battling your teammates who came in with a lot of clout, like William Byron did some great things in Trucks and Xfinity. You had Kyle Larson, who is seen maybe as one of the pound for pound the best driver probably in this series, and you've got Chase Elliott, who's got that pedigree, that championship pedigree now. There's a lot of pressure to perform, especially in a car that is carrying the number that a NASCAR future Hall of Famer drove to prominence. So there's that for Alex Bowman, but I think he'll be fine. I think he'll bounce back, probably roll off a few wins. We'll be in the playoff picture again, and is continuing each year to build on the successes he's achieved the year before. Panic meter for Bowman right now is at a low 2. Not to worry, my friend, not to worry. And then you have Kyle Busch. He's on this list because he is 14th in points. 2020. He had 2 top 10s. 2021, 15th in points, 3rd at Vegas, but couldn't capitalize on that momentum this team was building. Didn't look to be a factor at all at Phoenix. The rest of the team is performing well. You have Hamlin, who is having a career renaissance. You have Martin Truex Jr., who just fresh off a win. And when he gets going, he could be a dangerous driver. Christopher Bell gets his first win. And top 5s but just the one top 5 for Busch in 2020. It's incredibly difficult to be just the one top 5 in 4 of those 5 races. And he's coming off a rough 2020 campaign, really, and then again adjusting to the new crew chief, Ben Bishore, who he's had a lot of success with the Xfinity Series. He's won 4 races with them in 2019. I think Kyle Busch will get it right, but for whatever reason or another, his teammates are outrunning him at the moment. It's not a lot because, Kyle Busch is a talent. He's one of the greatest of all time in NASCAR. It could be this generation's greatest driver, but for whatever reason is sort of in a career slump at the moment. It looks as if maybe things aren't, all hope is lost for him. But I wouldn't quite bury him just yet. He's very resilient, maybe one of the most resilient drivers I've ever seen in this sport. And he can make magic happen just like that. Gifted wheelman. I think once him and Ben Bishore acclimate to each other at this level in the Cup car, in the Cup Series, and Ben Bishore hasn't been a crew chief at the Cup level before. I think, again, you have Busch, who'd worked for so many years. I know the marriage with Adam Stevens ended really, it was amicably, but I don't know. I still feel that Busch had a lot of comfort and a lot of solace in knowing the fact that him and Adam Stevens had accomplished so much together. And to have him now with this new crew chief, you're sort of working up the kinks, and that can be a lot to overcome when your performance is down. So I'm going to give his panic meter at the moment a modest 4. I think it's not dire straits for Busch, but things got to improve in the coming weeks. So we're going to wrap up here. Let's wave the white flag on this episode and look at who's going to be a factor at Atlanta this week. It's nice to see Atlanta back on the schedule in March. Many years this race has shifted around. It was in February. It was the second race after the 500. Then they had it at Labor Day weekend for a long time under the lights. Was the season finale for many years when it was the Winston Cup Series. So it's kind of cool to see Atlanta in March. And Ford has won the last 4 Atlanta races, split between Brad Kay and You guessed it, Kevin Harvick. So Brad Keselowski obviously is going to be a favorite and a driver to watch this week. He's got 2 wins in 12 starts, and the spring event in 2017 and the spring event in 2019. 6 top 10s in the last 6 Cup races at Atlanta, and 8 top 10s in 12 starts. And fresh off his second consecutive top 5 finish, it's pretty safe to say Keselowski can make that 3 consecutive top 5s and might end up with a trip in the winner's circle. Martin Truex Jr., he's fresh off his win at Phoenix, 3 consecutive top 10 finishes, and third at Atlanta in 2020, led 65 laps, second in 2019, and 3 top 5s in the last 3 Atlanta races. Martin Truex Jr., I think it's been a few years since he's been really red hot and had a lot of momentum, and I think this is his time to finally assert himself as maybe the top driver within the JGR organization. And this could be a good place to start that nice little run that we know that he can pull off at any time. And Kevin Harvick, winner of 2 of the last 3 Atlanta races, and this is a special race for him. This is the site of his first career win 20 years ago, replacing Dale Earnhardt after his untimely demise, and that really intense battle to the checkers with Jeff Gordon. 4 top 5s in the last 6 Atlanta races. And Stewart-Haas Racing's in dire need of a win. This team has looked pretty weak this year to start the season, and I think a win here will be extraordinary and is just what Harvick needs to get things going. And he's led 1,066 laps in the last 7 Atlanta races, so he knows how to get around here. Feels really good at this track and has not won a race yet this season, and that's dating back to September at Bristol. So that's a pretty long, I know it's only 12 race span, but for Harvick that seems like an eternity because I've become accustomed to seeing Harvick pretty much win on a weekly basis over the past 6 to 7 years. Chase Elliott, this is the home track for him. Atlanta native. He was on pole, and he's not an Atlanta native, but a native Georgian. He's from Dawsonville, Georgia, as we all know. Snafu there on me, but we do have a few of those from time to time. And he was on pole in 2020, led 26 laps. His first top 5 in 5 starts at Atlanta was 2017, and 4 top 10s in 5 Atlanta starts. And clearly would like to get back in the winner's circle and do it here at Atlanta, and a Hendrick car has not won at Atlanta, and a Chevy for that matter, since Jimmy Johnson in 2016. And Kyle Larson, second at Atlanta in 2017. Should keep an eye on him. In 2019, that 142 laps, looked like he was on his way to certain victory with Chip Ganassi. Had some issues, finished 12th, and 3 top 10s in 6 Atlanta starts, and 3 consecutive top 10s in 2021. Kyle Larson is starting to take shape as one of the top drivers in the series and as a threat to win each and every week. And it's just really nice to see him bounce back on his road to redemption, as they are calling it. So I'm going to wave the checkered flag on this edition of Winning, Watching, and Wrecking. I'm just grateful to be here each and every week covering NASCAR and getting to chat you people up, everyone who's listening, and try to get more support for the podcast in the coming months and weeks. And I think the NASCAR season has been fairly entertaining this year, and I am just, I think this could be the best season yet. I think 2001, to me, was heralded as the best season in Cup history. I think this could top it. I mean, it's 5 races in, but there's just a lot of intrigue, a lot of great storylines, and a lot of meat on the bone that we're going to cover this year as time passes on. Got a really cool episode coming up that we're working on. It's another race rewind, but this time we're going to go back to 2007. We're not covering any particular race, but one of the more significant events in NASCAR history. That time when Dale Jr., most popular driver in NASCAR for many years and maybe of all time. I think he's eclipsed his father, Dale Sr.'s popularity. And the time he decided to leave the family business and venture out on his own. And he wound up at Hendrick Motorsports. And the Goliath, that is Hendrick Motorsports, and a team that has just pull off, just rewritten the history books. So for Dale Earnhardt Jr. to finally go there, there was a lot of expectations that didn't quite get things that, I think I would phrase that as a lot of things that really didn't come to fruition for him. I think a lot of people thought this was going to be the match made in heaven. This was going to result in numerous championships, lots of wins. And they did win the Daytona 500 together in 2014. And there's been some significant races. In 2015, Earnhardt Jr. was in the thick of the title hunt with Hendrick Motorsports. But for whatever reason, you look back on it with rose-colored glasses. And I know it's real easy to fantasize about things you want to see. And it seemed like this was going to be a groundbreaking, earth-shaking move, and it didn't turn out to be. It fell a little flat in some people's eyes, but nonetheless, it was still fun to see over those 2 months in May and June of that year that Earnhardt was leaving the family business and wanted to carve out his own legacy with Hendrick Motorsports. And Hendrick Motorsports initially denied they were going to sign Dale Jr. They were committed to Kyle Busch. They were committed to Casey Mears, the two drivers that were the obvious choice that would get bumped in favor of Dale Jr. As you had Johnson and Gordon, who were not going to be going anywhere. So I think it'll be fun to go back in time and really see what could have went right for this team had things maybe gone the other way, or what could have happened had Jr. not left DEI. DEI didn't make it too much longer in the sport. Following his departure, there was a merger with Chip Ganassi Racing, and that team was never the same. So I think that's going to be an interesting topic we're going to cover. It's going to be dropping real soon on the Watching, Winning, and Wrecking podcast. And until next week, I just want to wish everyone a fantastic week and hope everyone continues to enjoy the warmer temperatures that are ahead and be good to one another and tell the folks out there how much you love them and people that are close to you, because you don't know, nothing's guaranteed past today. And I think I would hope that everyone enjoys Atlanta. I think it's going to be a cool racetrack to see back on the schedule in March, and the Bristol Dirt Race, which we'll discuss a little bit more next week and on the actual weekend of the race. So until next time, this is Hey, it's Christopher, and I hope everyone has a nice evening, and I will see you next time.